How's everybody doing? Yeah? Is it a good day so far? How many people have been here before, have done this workshop, this thing before? Yeah. So I'm interested, or I'm curious, compared to previous years, do you feel that the energy this year is different? Yes. How is it different? What are you perceiving as different about this year's energy? No idea? It just feels different? I've been noticing as I'm at my booth and chatting with people and watching my practitioners working that there seems to be a higher vibration that we're all experiencing. This event's been going on for 11 years now. Can you believe that? 11 years. I know. And I've been to every one of them. I was there at the beginning when we started out small and then gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. The more people that show up each year in their authentic self, in their openness, ready and willing to experience what is being offered here, the higher the vibration. And when you leave here today, you're going to take that vibration with you out into the world. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? I don't need to stand in front of the microphone? It's a good volume? Beautiful. Well, I'm Megan Edge, and I own a company called Megan Edge Healing. And I've been doing this work for the last 12 years as my work. I call it my work with a capital W. But I've really been doing this work my whole life. Half a century now. Blows my mind. And I can't wait for the next half century to see what's going to come of it. I want to share with you a shopping list of the things that I do and that I offer. And this is going to make sense as we go through the talk, because we're going to come back to this shopping list. So I'm a mother, primarily and foremost, of two beautiful daughters. I'm a daughter myself, obviously. I'm a sister, I'm a wife, and I'm a friend. I'm also a master teacher and a master healer. I'm the creator and host of Playing on the Edge Radio on Transformation Talk Radio out of Seattle. And I do a live show once a month, talking about things that empower us, talking about radical change with ease. I'm the author of The Heart's Journey, Healing Hearts Oracle Cards and Guidebook. This is a healing toolkit that has a guidebook, a journal, a pen, the oracle cards, everything you need to touch base with your heart. I'm also the creator of Intuitive Energy Massage. Who's had an IEM treatment today? How was it? You had one last time. Awesome. Well, we're offering IEM treatments today. Intuitive Energy Massage, chair and front. This is a healing modality that I've created in the last 10 years, and I now certify practitioners to take this to their clients and give them that transformational healing. I also write for 3 online magazines. Island Women, which is a local magazine, Mind Body Network, which comes out of the States, and Sybil Magazine, which is a women's empowerment magazine also out of the States. I'm a public speaker. I have a private practice where I see clients one-on-one and help them with their healing journeys, recovering from trauma, from wounding, identifying what their purpose path is, just helping, whatever it is that they need me to help them with. I have online courses that I teach. And I have a line of healing products. When I share that shopping list with you, where do you suppose that is coming from? My wanting to share that with you. Where is it coming from? Thank you. Oh, yes, it is. It is coming from my heart. It could also be coming from my ego. It could, and we're going to talk about that today. And it could also be coming from a place of confidence, of recognizing and knowing that I have accomplished lots of things in my life, and in the work that I do, there are many tactile things that I have accomplished, right? Like writing the book and creating the oracle cards or creating the certification programs. So it could be coming from my heart, it could be coming from my ego, and it could be coming from my confidence. The question that I want to put to you today is, what do we mean by ego? I would love to have a couple of people brave enough to put their hand up and tell me what you think ego is, please. Fear, okay.
Ego is the attachment of the soul to the body.
Okay, I like that one, yeah. Anyone else?
Attachment to control.
Attachment to control, okay. Good, there's no right or wrong answer, by the way. Yes?
I think ego is something that we need to protect ourselves from danger, or if we have an intuition that something is not right, that's okay, that we can separate ourselves from that.
Yeah. Okay, so ego is something that keeps us safe. Yes?
It often has the connotation of being, of a person being full of themselves.
Yes, definitely, that's a popular one. Yep.
A mechanism that allows us to navigate this third-dimensional reality.
Yes, exactly. All of that is correct. But what I have observed in popular metaphysical culture and in the spiritual culture as well is that we have demonized the ego. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you read where the ego is evil? The ego holds us back. The ego is a part of ourselves that we need to suppress or that we need to get over. One of the quotes that I read this morning said, "How to kill your ego." What? How to kill your ego? But as we've identified today, your ego is a part of who you are. Why would you feel the need to kill a part of your whole self? To me, that seems counterintuitive to the whole idea of being a spiritual being. Quieter control, quiet your ego, and lead from your heart. Quiet your ego and lead from your heart. Certainly, for sure. And a lot of these ideas that are popular around ego, and just think about our language, right? As the lady over here suggested, we can use ego to identify someone who we consider is full of themselves, or he's so egotistical, right? Or she's leading with her ego. And we say that as a way to diminish that other person, right? Those kinds of comments are not, I don't think they're coming from our heart. I think they're coming from our own sense of a lack of self-worth. And we're projecting that onto the other person. But what I want to do today is take a few minutes to demystify what Freud meant by the id, the ego, and the superego. So if you'll bear with me and indulge me for a few minutes, we're going to do a Reader's Digest version of what Freud actually meant by these three terms. Okay, so we're all familiar with Freud. Anyone who did high school psychology, you learned about Sigmund Freud. Say Sigmund Freud was a man. And by his own admission, he was a man who was just trying to understand the human psyche. And he said near the end of his life, "Nothing that I have said is gospel. My work is continually evolving. Please evolve my work after I am gone." But what we did instead was created a school of thought, and we made it gospel in a lot of ways. And then like any gospel, we took a few pieces out of it that made the most sense to us, and we brought that into popular culture. And that's where we get this idea of ego from, right? But what Freud had was three aspects of the human psyche. The id. So is anyone familiar with the id? Do you remember what the id is from high school psychology? That's your basic primal personality. That's what you're born with, is your id. And your id is where that immediate need for results comes from. I want, I have to have. That's what the id is. And some people will evolve their id into their ego and their superego, but other people will just stay in their id their whole lives. Instant gratification, and I deserve, I deserve, I deserve. Can we think of anybody currently, maybe south of us, who may still be in their id? I'm just saying. So the id is a really important part of who we are, though, because it's how we survive as infants and children. We have an immediate need. We create a response that we hope is going to be taken seriously, and then we get that need met for food, for comfort, for love, for nourishment, for whatever it is. It's a good part of ourselves. Our ego, our beleaguered ego, is in fact the part of us that responds to the day-to-day reality of our lives, right? Our ego is what takes us through each day. It's exactly what each of you said. It keeps us safe. It helps us navigate these day-to-day experiences that we have. But somehow we've made it a part of ourselves that we're not supposed to like or that we're supposed to overcome. And whether we believe that personally or not, that kind of literature is out there and people are believing that about the ego, right? But the ego's job is to keep you safe in this world. And its other job, according to Freud, is to help mitigate the immediate needs and wants that the id has by talking to the superego, who is the moral gatekeeper of our personalities, and creating balance between the id and the superego. What Freud was talking about was creating that balance between these three aspects of ourselves. And that when we are in a healthy relationship with our ego, as our go-to part of ourselves that helps us get what we want without stepping on anyone's toes and breaking anyone's laws, right? Then we are in balance. We get our needs met. We also have our desires and wishes filled, and we still are of service to the rest of the world. Does that make sense? That's what he was looking for. I would like to ask a question and have a raise of hands. How many people in this room, at some point in their lives, have made themselves wrong about something that they did, said, believed in, or decided? And if your hand's not going up, bless you, I want to know you and I want to talk to you. We've all done it, right? We all have that little voice in the back of our head that plays on repeat and tells us things like we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we don't matter, we don't belong. And that same little voice is often the one that says to us, you made a mistake, you did it wrong. And because you did it wrong, because you made a mistake, you're not good enough. That's what it ultimately comes back to, is that you're not good enough. That's that tape that plays in your head. Why? Why would we do that to ourselves? Pardon me? Programmed, okay. So we're brought up in a culture that expects us to be self-diminishing, potentially, right? One of the 7 deadly sins is vanity. What does that word evoke for you when you think of being vain? What does that mean to you? Someone said, oh, you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. Right? Vanity is something where we put the focus on ourselves to the exclusion of other people. But what if you put the focus on yourself in a healthy way, not to the exclusion of other people, but so that you can show up in the world in your complete and authentic and ideal self? How amazing would that be? And what if instead of one of the 7 deadly sins, it became one of the beautiful virtues? I just made that up. I think that's great. I think we need to create the 7 beautiful virtues. What would they be? But this is the point that I want to make. Even when you have that reel in the back of your head that may be telling you that you aren't good enough, smart enough, or pretty enough, you can ask the question of yourself. You can say to your ego, is this true and why are we saying it? What would be a reason that you would convince yourself that you're not good enough, smart enough, or pretty enough? Well, that would be what you would aim for, absolutely. And yes, self-improvement for sure. What's another reason that you might? Yes. So both. So once you recognize that you're doing it to protect yourself and keep yourself safe, then you can start moving into, how can I change that? What if I don't want to have that relationship with myself where I'm listening to a part of myself whose job it is to keep me safe, but the way in which it's keeping me safe is actually preventing me from doing the things that I want to do with my life. But the only reason that it's doing that is because it's trying to protect me. Can you see the loop? Right? How do you get off that hamster wheel? Well, we're jumping a little bit ahead, but I'm going to give you one of the exercises already. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to imagine. I'd like you to imagine that your ego is a part of yourself. It's a part of yourself that loves you dearly. It's a part of yourself that has only been doing exactly what you have told it to do for you to keep you safe for your entire life. And some of the things that it's keeping you safe from aren't the things that are scary, like the boogeyman or things that go bump in the night. It's the successes. It's the taking a risk. It's the taking a chance. It's the saying yes. Why would it be trying to keep you safe from that? Doesn't that sound counterintuitive? Why would that part of yourself be saying, stop, 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 put on the brakes, dig your heels in. We're not taking that job offer, accepting that love. We're not taking that chance. Somebody said fear? Back to fear again, right. But also, it's the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown, because, talk about that conditioning, we learn from a very early age to stay comfortable in our discomfort. Yes?
I think because it makes other people uncomfortable if we actually live our true self. People put their own perceptions on how we should be.
Yeah.
And if we live it out loud, other people are like, well, be less, be quieter,
Yep.
slow down,
Yep.
don't act.
That's right.
And then that creates this, it goes against your sense of belonging.
Yes. And how powerful is our sense of belonging?
Its sense of self.
It's hugely powerful, right? It's sense of self, it's defining ourselves through other people's experiences of us, 100%. But let me ask you this. Are you ultimately responsible for how somebody else experiences you or perceives you?
No.
Thank you, this is an advanced crowd. But honestly, often we are brought up to believe that we are responsible for other people's happiness. And that whole idea that she's sharing around other people are going to feel uncomfortable if I stand in my brilliance, if I say I'm a star, look at me shine, and I go do all these amazing things, and they're not doing those amazing things, and they get triggered into their lack, and then they project it out onto me, and they say, oh my God, she's so egotistical, she's so full of herself, I can't believe that she's standing up there and doing her laundry list of all the things that she's accomplished. Back to the laundry list. So here's the point though. You're not responsible. You're not responsible for somebody else's ego. You're not responsible for somebody else's sense of themselves. That belongs to them. That belongs to them. It doesn't mean that you get to go flying through your life just batting people about and being rude and inconsiderate to them. Absolutely not. Because you're in partnership with people, so you do have an accountability piece around how you choose to behave with the people around you, but you still are not ultimately responsible for how they respond to you. Where is their response to you coming from? Pardon me? Fear. Could be from fear, yeah. Where else could it be coming from? Jealousy? Their past? Their hurt? Their wounding? Their story? Their insecurities? How much of that is about you? Yeah, and let's be honest, let's be truly clear and transparent. How often have we put it on them? How often have you made somebody else responsible for your own happiness and sense of yourself? I know that for me, I always needed my father to be proud of me. And I didn't understand how much of a story that was for me until I did my work around it and realized that everything I was doing, I was showing up in it and presenting it to him and saying, Daddy, aren't you proud of me? Which isn't a really healthy relationship for me to have with my father, because it's not his job. Even as my father, certainly not as an adult, it's not his job to validate me and the work that I'm doing. My need for that was coming from my own insecurity around whether or not I was good enough, right? Based on my early childhood relationship with him, right? So this is how we do it without even realizing that we're doing it. And I would like to suggest that all of that need is coming from the id, not from the ego. And it's not that the id isn't your ally, but as Freud said, he wanted us to bring all three together and find a way to be in balance with these aspects of ourselves. Our superego, who is the person that looks after our morals and helps us understand what the expectation of the group is and how we can walk that line to make sure that we're accepted and that we belong. The ego, whose job it is to bridge the two, and then the id, who says, I want that. That's what I want, right? And the ego comes along and says, okay, that's great, but here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to imagine. I want you to imagine what it will be like when you have that thing that you want right now, whether it's a hamburger when you're sitting in a meeting and you're bored and you're hungry, or it's a big goal and a dream that you have. The ego's job is to say, okay, that's a good want. Let's imagine how we can get that, how we can have that. So back to the exercise that we started out with. So you've got this part of yourself, you recognize it. Give it a name. Name your ego. Doesn't matter what the name is. Could be anything, okay? So now imagine that ego is sitting in front of you, that entity of yourself. Have a conversation with that aspect of yourself and start by thanking it. Because don't we all want to be thanked? Don't we all want to be acknowledged for the good work that we do, whether it's for others or for ourselves? I know I do, and I don't think that's coming from a place of vanity. I think that's coming from a place of being able to stand and say, this is the good work I do. It's a healthy acknowledgement, and I'm equally able to acknowledge it in other people without the expectation of anything in return, right? Genuinely. So genuinely thank this part of yourself, thank your ego. Thank it for doing exactly what you told it to do all this time. Keeping you safe from success, keeping you safe from love, and equally keeping you safe from the boogeyman and the things that go bump in the night. And once you feel in your center that this aspect of yourself believes you, it knows that you are genuinely grateful for the work it has done for you, now tell it that it's time for new instructions. Like who of us in the room couldn't afford to lose a block or two that we've been playing with that's getting in the way of us really truly showing up in our brilliance? Those mental blocks. What if we had new instructions? What if we said to ourselves, it's safe. It is now safe to step into the unknown. It's safe to step into love. It's safe to step into success. It is safe to step into our own brilliance. And with the help of the ego, you will do it together. And so now the ego becomes your ally, right? Can you feel that conversation unfolding? How many of you are doing it in your head right now? Having that good. Have it. Have the conversation now. There's no time like the present, right? What's the worst that could happen? Maybe nothing changes, but I'm pretty sure, and I can tell you from my own experiences, and when I teach this to other people, like that, your relationship changes with yourself. And here's the fundamental result of that exercise. You become more whole because you aren't placing this thing outside of yourself and saying, this is the reason why I'm not getting what I want, right? Okay, there are 6 other aspects of yourself that I want us to play with over the next couple of minutes. Will you indulge me? Okay, so there are many aspects of yourself, but I've narrowed it down to 3 that makes it workable. So first of all, there's your doubting demon. Then there's your inner critic. And then there's your backpedaler. Your doubting demon, your inner critic, and your backpedaler. Give them names. If you've got your phone and you want to do it on your notes or whatever, that's fun to do, because once you've got the name, you can start working with these parts of yourself. Okay, so what's your doubting demon's name? First thing that comes into your head. Just let it be the first thing. Don't judge it, don't edit it. Might be a name, might be a color, might be a feeling. Okay? Once you have your doubting demon's name, go to your backpedaler. Do you know what I mean by your backpedaler? The opportunity shows up when someone says, hey, do you want to be on Oprah? And you go, no, not me, no, not at all. That's your backpedaler, right? The opportunity comes up for the promotion. The opportunity comes up for love. And you feel yourself doing this. You start putting the walls up. You start doing the talk to my hand thing. That's not for me. You want it. Your body's like, yes, that's the opportunity we've been waiting for. But something inside of you is going, no, we can't do that. You're backpedaling your doubting demon. They're like this. They're like buds. Okay, so give your backpedaler a name. Now, what about your inner critic? Who has one? We all have an inner critic, right? Whose voice is that? It's usually not your own. Your inner critic usually has the voice of someone of authority from when you were a child. So it could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be a priest, it could be somebody of influence whose word you took to be meaningful or to whom you tried to get approval from or love from or any of the other things that we need. And your inner critic is the one who says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You can't do that. No one likes you. What are you thinking? Oh my God, you're the worst writer, you're the worst drawer, you're the worst painter, you're the worst dancer, you're the worst singer, right? Whose voice is that? Give it a name. These three aspects of yourself, for the most part, for most of your life, unless you are in awareness and you're doing your work, they are running the show. Not your ego, not even your id or your superego. These three aspects of yourself are running the show. And if you think about these three aspects of yourself and you were to give them an age, how old would they be? This group of three. What's coming up for you about how old they are? Think of the human lifespan. Think of their behavior. Yeah. Yeah. They're little kids. They're little kids who are doing exactly what you've told them to do, right? They're saying exactly what you've told them to say. They're aspects of yourself that are doing the same job as what we've assigned to the ego. What if, instead of letting them run the show, because honestly, who wants a 5-year-old running our adult lives? And it's actually not fair to the 5-year-old, because that's not their job. That's our job as adults, right? So instead of letting them run the show, what if you imagine a sandbox and you invite them to go play in the sandbox? Because really, that's what they want to be doing. They just want to be playing in the sandbox. They're trying to be a grown-up and they're trying to do what you need them to do, but they just want to play in the sandbox. So invite them to play in the sandbox. But don't forget about them, because children are wise, right? And these three aspects of ourselves have come from our own experiences. So when the doubting demon shows up at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, I doubt you can do that, instead of sitting there in insomnia for the next 6 hours worrying that you can't, why not say, how come? How come we can't do that? When the inner critic shows up and says, you are not going to be able to do that because everybody else is better than you, then you say, why is everyone else better than me? There's 1 million books on the bookshelves, but what if I write another? What if there's 1,000,001? And that's okay, right? You want to enter into dialogue with all these aspects of yourself. Now, our little folks, our little doubting demons and everyone else, they've gone off to play in the sandbox. So who are you going to work with now? Who can you call upon as an adult? Who can be your peer in this conversation of the whole self? Your divine essence. Give him or her a name, or it a name. Your divine essence. Your inner warrior. Feel the energy of that. Inner warrior. This is the one who stands up for you or for the people that you are standing up for. Divine essence, inner warrior, inner goddess, inner God, your God self. Now here's what I've noticed when I've done this exercise with people. It's way easier to identify the first three, and it's kind of fun, and we laugh about it, than it is for us to identify the second three. Did anyone have that problem or that issue or that concern or like, what? Divine essence? What are you talking about? Doubting demon, I can totally relate to that. I talk to my doubting demon all the time, but my divine essence? Yes, your divine essence. That's your spirit, right? That's the other side of this conversation, ego and spirit. What a lot of metaphysical and religious texts talk about is that you cannot be connected to your spirit if you're stuck in your ego. But remember, we're no longer demonizing the ego. So what if you can be connected and step into your spirit only if you're in right relationship with your ego? Right? Freud talks about the ego as being the I. I am. I am what? I am divine. I am scared. I am is your statement of who and what you are in that moment. When you speak from the place of I am, you're speaking from the place of spirit, I believe. Because when you are able to stand in the I am, you're in a place of taking personal self-responsibility for your total well-being. Whose job is it to take care of your total well-being?
I am.
Yes, you are. That's your job. And it's probably one of the hardest jobs of being a human being, is to stand in total 100% self-responsibility for all of your life experiences. And I say that cautiously, and I know how that might land. I do a lot of work with people who have had trauma in their lives. I do a lot of work with people who've had sexual abuse experiences in their lives, helping them to change their story and to change the purpose and the reason, their understanding for the purpose and the reason of these things that happen to them. To get to a point along that healing journey, to be able to say, I am the survivor of, brings an empowerment piece to the connection between you and spirit that won't exist otherwise, in my experience, until you get to that place where you can say, these events in my life, whatever they are, have purpose and reason and meaning. There's a reason why. And it's not because you deserved it, and it's not because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or that your skirt was too short, or that you weren't paying attention, or whatever. But in the big picture, all the things that happen in your life, whatever they are, the good and the bad, however you perceive those, have a meaning and a purpose. That's spirit. That's the soul reminding you that everything you've experienced creates the whole individual. And ultimately, the spiritual journey is towards the whole individual. Isn't that what we're searching for? Like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? The question is, it's about the self, right? And we cannot be in right relationship with spirit until we're in right relationship with ourself. And in order to be in right relationship with ourself, we need to feel whole. We need to feel that every part of ourself has meaning and reason and purpose, right? This whole idea of having to love ourselves, well, it's true. That's the kicker. You actually do. You do have to love yourself, every cell in your body, every decision you've ever made in your life, in order to be in right relationship between yourself and spirit. This is what I believe. You don't have to believe it. I don't have to be right about it. It doesn't have to land for you. It's what lands for me. So even when I'm having an off day and I look at myself in the mirror in the morning and I go, oh God, oh, those bags. Oh, I'm feeling my age, and whatever other commentary that might come in. Even when I have a day like that, I can still trust that there's a center core of my being that knows my value, even if I'm not seeing it right now. That's my ego, right? This is the new relationship that I invite you to have with your ego. That the ego is the part of yourself that connects you to spirit, because what ego does is remind us of who we are. And whether we like what we see or not is irrelevant, because we have free will, and at any moment we can change how we feel about ourselves. Trust me, I know it's not easy, but you can do it. I know you can do it. You can do it like that if you choose to, right? So that ego is that part of us that reminds us to stand in the present moment and be in reality and see what's going on around us, and reminds us of our self-worth and our value so that we can step into our lives with spirit and ego and self and our doubting demon and our goddess and God and our wise warrior and all those other aspects of ourselves. All right? Now, I don't mean to suggest that we should splinter ourselves, because honestly, there's enough going on in the world that to try to keep track of all of those entities might be a little overwhelming. But you can just be in mindfulness that they are there and they are a part of yourself. And when you step into the doubt and the worry and the concern, you can remind yourself that you have the capacity to stop and question the validity and the purpose of that inner dialogue. All right? And that inner dialogue is probably coming more from the id than it is from any other part of yourself. Right? So what would it feel like? Just take a moment, close your eyes if you want to, just feel yourself into your body. And imagine that you know where your body ends and the air around you begins. Feel your skin on your arms, on your legs. Feel the chair beneath you holding you up. Notice anywhere in your body where you may be holding tension, worry, doubt, unresolved anything. Is it between your shoulder blades? Is it in your digestive system? Is it in your knee? Just notice how your body is feeling in this moment. And then breathe it. Take a deep breath in. And on a full exhale, release whatever that is. Okay, so I know we may be aware of our neighbors right next to us, and maybe you don't want to hear them hear you breathing, but I would like to encourage you to do that exhale like you really mean it. Are you ready to let go of the things that are in your way? Are you ready to let go of the tension? Are you ready to let go of the pain that your body is holding on to for you? If you don't need it any longer, then put it down. Take a deep breath in. All the way, all the way, all the way. Feel it leaving on that exhale. Here's something that you can add to this practice. On the inhale, I acknowledge, I accept. I acknowledge, I accept. I acknowledge where I am in this moment. I accept that this is how I feel. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to edit. I just notice it. I just notice it. I acknowledge and I accept on the inhale. And on the exhale, I release, I let it be. I release, I let it be. Okay? In that moment, you're releasing control. Can you feel that? Because of the words you're using. You're not saying, I let it go. Because what happens when we want to let it go? Usually, we don't want to let it go. We actually want to keep it. We want to hold it tighter when we say we want to let it go. But I release and I let it be. I just release it. Now I know I don't have control. You didn't anyways, but you thought you did, but you don't. So you release it. I release, I let it be. Who knows the Beatles song? I'm not going to sing again for you. I won't put you through that. But they were onto something there. Just let it be. Because here's what I know to be true. Every relationship that you have with somebody else has an energy of its own. It's an energy that's beyond you. It's not about you or them. It has its own life force. Every belief that you have has its own life force, including the beliefs about yourself. Right? Life force extinguishes when it no longer serves. So the life force of a relationship will dissolve when the relationship is complete. It doesn't mean that it's going to be painless, but when you can step into that thinking then there's that understanding that if I try to hold on, it's not going to happen because the life force is actually dissipated, right? That control, somebody commented earlier about ego is about control. And what I'm saying to you is, yes, in the old way of thinking, but in the new way of thinking, when you're in right relationship with your ego and your spirit, it's really easy to know what no longer serves you and to be able to let it be, right? But beyond that, by letting it be, you are acknowledging its life force. You're letting it be what it needs to be. Can you feel that? And that doesn't mean that you can't exert influence or imagine a different outcome. You can totally do that because we're in energy and free will all the time. But you could even just say, well, this is the outcome, right? This is what I want to have happen, and then I'm going to let it be so that the energy can figure out what the energy needs to do in order to create that experience for you, right? So all of this comes back to this understanding that in order to be in right relationship with ourselves, we have to be in complete relationship with ourselves. We need to embrace each aspect of our personality. The good, the bad, the joyful, the wonderful, the ugly, the warts, and the all. Right? If I had one message that I would shout from the rooftops, and if Oprah came calling, I'd say, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to stand on your stage and say this. It is this. You are far wiser than you give yourselves credit for. Your entire human experience from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime has given you an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience and knowing. Don't throw that away. Stand in your I. I am. And then fill in the blank. And some days it might not be the most uplifting thing that you are in that moment. But if you can allow yourself to be in that moment, then you really are bridging between the superego and the id, and you're standing in an authentic version of yourself. Will you indulge me in another exercise? Who's feeling brave? Who's falling asleep? It's very warm in here. You can stretch, you can do this if you need to. Okay, I'm going to give it back to you. I invite you to stand up and say to your neighbor, I am. And then what are you in that moment? It can be, I am a mother. It can be, I am tired. It can be, I am excited, or I'm scared. Go back into that body exercise we just did. Find that place of anxiety, or if it's still there. Like, what are you right now in this moment? What do you want to share about yourself to the person next to you? I am. Not I feel, not I think, but I am. Are you willing to play? Okay, stand up. You can do it with me if you like. Ooh, beautiful. Okay, I am overheating. Hopefully you've done it at least once, but you can do it more than once. And what I would suggest is to try not to get into conversation, but simply let the other person tell you what they are in this moment. Acknowledge it. You can say that's beautiful or whatever, but just quick, short, and then you switch. Okay? So what we were doing just now was I said, I am becoming. And sorry, what was your name? Chloe. And Chloe said, I am learning. And then I said, I'm overheating. She said, I'm tired. Right? And we went back and forth 4 or 5 times until we both went, whew, okay, I think I'm done now. Okay? So that's how I would encourage you to do it. So give it another go. Okay? Okay, everybody. Finish up your I ams and we'll take a seat again. So how was that? Was anybody surprised at how they were? Somebody said yes. Who said that? Yes, you were surprised? Was that you who said? Oh, I thought I heard somebody say yes, please.
I didn't realize that I was brave, so that was the first thing that I was like, I'm brave. And then I didn't, I haven't felt like that. So it was weird that it came up.
That's beautiful. I have my goosebumps. So she said, I am brave, but didn't realize that was going to come out. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Did anybody else have anything that surprised them about how they are? Yes.
One thing that I found was at first, during the first exercise, we sort of expanded on it a little bit, but then in the second part, we stayed with the one word. And I think I learned a lot more about myself when I focused.
Yes.
Rather than while talking.
Yes. Yeah, that's a beautiful observation. Because truly, our words can get in the way of what we really mean if we feel like we need to explain. Or we just come from a place of wanting to explain. But when you break it down to what is the most simplest way to describe your current state of being, it in a way, it forces you to be very clear and acknowledge in that moment, and wow, okay, I don't have to pretend that I am something other than how I am in this moment. Right? That's the power of that exercise. And yes. you told her how cute she was? Do you feel cute? Would you say I am cute? Yeah? Awesome. Awesome. Well, so here's one of the points of that exercise. It's you in ownership. Feel that for a moment. I am allows you to be in ownership of how you are. Don't ask me to repeat that. So fundamentally, it's you being in self-responsibility, right? And it takes us back to my personal theory. Freud and I were like this, that in order to be in right relationship with yourself, your I, you need to know who you are. And the best way to know who you are is to say, I am. But let me take it all the way back to that laundry list that I shared with you at the very beginning. All those things that I do or that I have created are not who I am. They are not my essence. They may be a creative expression of how I show up in the world and what's important to me. If you look at the oracle cards, they're full of beautiful heart photographs of hearts that I found in nature that had meaning to me, and they became a way for me to express this new understanding that I was receiving at the time about the importance of following my heart above all other voices, even when the decisions that I had to make by listening to my heart were not the easiest decisions to make. But I knew if I was coming from my heart, then I was coming from a place of authenticity and integrity, right? But I had to get there. I had to know that. The nature essences that I create, it's the same thing. They're an expression of what matters to me and what's important to me. So one of my nature essences is called boundaries. And it's made from the flower of the morning glory. And it's all about standing in your boundaries, standing in your power. Because I had a client who was going through a situation of remembering her brother abusing her as a child. And that set up a pattern for her where she didn't know how to say no to anybody, ever, in her adult life. Because her no had not been respected when she was a child. Her boundaries were broken. So I created the spray for boundaries to help us stand in that knowing of what our boundaries are, right? So that laundry list isn't who I am. It's a list of the ways in which I show up in the world. I would invite you each morning when you wake up to state in this moment, I am. And then let it show up for you. I am brave. I am strong. I am tired. I had a crappy sleep last night. Right? You don't always have to be standing in this place of, oh, I'm perfect, everything is wonderful, because it isn't, and it's not, and that's not where reality is. The reality is that our lives are complicated, and shit happens, right? But that ego part of you its job is to help you navigate and negotiate all of that and create that sense of wholeness. So please, from this moment forward, know your wholeness. You actually don't even have to work for it because you already are whole. The rest is a story. Change the story. Thank you, everybody. And come on up and get an IEM treatment. You'll feel amazing. Thank you, everyone.